At 5:32 p.m. on January 31st, Nancy Guthrie entered a rideshare. Investigators would establish this fact within a week. They interviewed the driver and verified the route. Every detail of the trip was scrutinized, and then, a strange silence. The ride was never mentioned in a press conference. No reporter ever questioned what it meant. Not a single analyst ever connected that Saturday ride to the events that would inevitably follow. That journey may be the most critical, overlooked detail of Nancy Guthrie's last day of normal life. We are returning to that Saturday, hour by hour. Nothing Nancy did that day was spontaneous. Nothing broke her pattern. Her actions mirrored what she did every week, and that very predictability made her the perfect target. Tucson, January 31st, 5:32 p.m. Nancy Guthrie walked out her front door into a waiting car. She did not take her own vehicle. She called an Uber, a seemingly small detail of profound importance. Every rideshare journey creates an indelible digital record in real time. Pickup location logged, destination logged, the entire route tracked. Every moment of the trip is automatically recorded. At 5:32, Nancy was collected from her home and driven to her daughter Annie's house. Authorities confirmed every stage of that trip early in their investigation. They spoke with the driver. They analyzed the route data. The driver was cleared. But for 45 days, no one in the media asked the one crucial question. If an observer was posted at Nancy Guthrie's house that afternoon, and we know someone was watching, they would have witnessed the entire departure sequence. They would see her emerge from her home, enter the car, and then watch it drive away. In that single moment, one truth would become absolute. She had left her own car behind. Therefore, her return was dependent on a schedule she could not control. Her arrival would be dictated entirely by another person. An observer would grasp the meaning instantly. She had to come back. She would be dropped at that very door, and she would enter that house completely alone. This was not a guess. It was a certainty, built from a single observation. It changes everything about the planning of this crime. Annie Guthrie's home was not far. The family gathered for dinner that evening. Tomaso Chion, Annie's husband, was there, the last person known to have seen Nancy alive. The small, ordinary moments that passed between them over dinner would be their last. It was the final, normal conversation Nancy would ever have with the people she loved. While Nancy sat at that dinner table, the crime designed to shatter their lives was already in motion. The decisions were made. The timing was set. Not that night, but weeks before. And the one responsible knew exactly where she was, because this Saturday evening was not new. This was not a pattern that had started in January. It was a precise, predictable routine. Dinner at Annie's, returning home by 10 o'clock, every single week. For Nancy, this was the warmth and comfort of family. To an outside observer, it was a schedule. And a schedule is a weapon that can be turned against its creator. Here is the connection no one made publicly for 45 days. The FBI sought footage from two specific dates, January 11th and January 24th. Both were Saturdays, 3 weeks before the abduction, and then 1 week. The FBI does not request footage without a reason. They had seen something on those dates, a vehicle, a presence, a pattern that connected those Saturdays to the night of February 1st, 2 prior Saturdays. The implication is chilling. On Saturday, January 11th, an observer was present. They saw a pattern that would repeat on January 24th and again on the 31st. Nancy leaving, then returning home alone. Same time, same sequence. 3 Saturdays without deviation. This was no longer surveillance. It was confirmation. The goal was not to discover something new. Each visit was simply to verify that the pattern held true, that it was still reliable. By January 31st, an observer had seen this exact evening play out twice before. Her departure time was known. It was known she would return without her vehicle, that she would be dropped off, that the garage would close. It was known she would be isolated inside that home. 3 Saturdays, an identical pattern, a predictable outcome. That level of certainty is never accidental. This was a predator who would not move until every variable was verified, and by that day, all conditions were met. At 9:48 p.m., Tomaso entered the driveway. He waited 2 minutes, a period ensuring she was safely inside. It was the instinct of a caring son-in-law. The garage opened at 9:48. It closed at 9:50. From any vantage point, the sequence was clear. Nancy Guthrie was home. She was alone. The house was sealed. For the one who watched this same sequence on January 11th and January 24th, This moment held no surprise. This was the signal, the confirmation that the pattern had held true. For a third time, the routine had completed itself. Every step proceeded precisely as it had before. The only difference on this Saturday was that the watcher was not going to leave. At 9:50 that night, the garage door had sealed. The street was quiet. The desert was still. She had been with family, the people she loved most. She was in her sanctuary. She was safe. The evening had concluded, as countless Saturday nights had before. She had no reason to feel anything but the quiet comfort of routine. No warning, nothing unusual, because nothing was out of place. The Uber, the dinner, the ride home, every detail of January 31st matched her life as it had been for years. The same timing, the same people. This was not a coincidence. This was the design. The architect of this needed one thing from Nancy Guthrie that night, for her to feel completely safe. Because a person who feels safe does not check the locks twice, nor listen for sounds in the dark. A person who feels safe extinguishes the lights, pulls up the covers, and sleeps. Here is what January 31st reveals about this case. A truth unspoken until now. The crime did not begin on February 1st, not when the camera went dark, not within the 41-minute window. It did not begin when the pacemaker lost its signal. It began on a Saturday, when an 84-year-old woman was first observed. It continued on January 11th and 24th, and by 9:50 on the night of January 31st, when that garage door finally closed, the planner had acquired all necessary intelligence. Her routine was mapped across 3 separate Saturdays. It was verified she returned home alone each week. Every detail was timed to the minute. There was nothing left to observe, nothing more to plan. All that remained was to wait for the house to go silent. After 45 days, the Uber driver was cleared. Tomaso Chion was cleared. The Guthrie family was cleared. But the figure who watched from the shadows on 2 separate Saturdays remains a ghost. For now, the DNA from inside the home is being processed at a private lab. Genetic genealogy work continues around the clock. Investigators have clarified this is not the glove discovered 2 miles from the scene. This is biological material from inside the house itself, deemed the most critical evidence in the investigation. Cases have been solved on far less. The reward is $1.2 million. Yet every investigator knows a truth about such plans. There is always a detail the perpetrator could not control. A neighbor's faint memory of an unfamiliar car. A face seen twice on 2 different Saturdays. Something so small it seemed unworthy of mention. That detail exists right now. If you saw anything in that Tucson neighborhood on January 11th, 24th, or 31st, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Night 3 approaches, revealing what was discovered about the 4 hours between 9:50 p.m. and 1:47 a.m. Those unaccounted for hours inside the house will change how this entire case is perceived. Subscribe so you do not miss it. The tragic story of Nancy Guthrie serves as a chilling reminder that our most comforting habits can sometimes become our greatest vulnerabilities. We often find peace in the rhythm of our lives, the weekly family dinner, the familiar route home, the predictable silence of 10 p.m. But in a world where shadows can watch, routine is a double-edged sword. The watchman didn't need a key to Nancy's house. He only needed to understand her schedule. This case teaches us a vital lesson in personal vigilance. Safety is not a static state, but a conscious practice. We must learn to break our patterns, to stay unpredictable, and to look at our surroundings through the eyes of a stranger. True security lies in the awareness that even within our sanctuaries, we are part of a wider community. We must be the eyes and ears for one another. That unfamiliar car or repeated presence isn't just a coincidence, it could be a signal. Let Nancy's story move us from complacency to a deeper commitment to collective safety. Protect your peace, cherish your loved ones, but never let your guard down in the quiet of the night.